Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you who are joining us from across the world today for another edition of Pandemic Punditry, brought to you by the Content Experience Company. We are delighted to have this very exciting panel on planet-saving careers, and we have today a large group of people who hopefully will inspire you to take up careers in this new emerging space. So we are very excited to talk to Dr. Dalal Alghawas. She is the program director for Big Idea Ventures, and Dr. Matthew Zhao. He's the food scientist also at Big Idea Ventures. We also have Shardul Dabir, who is the innovation specialist at the Good Food Institute. And joining him as well is Smitha Devigere. I'm going to kill your name. I know. I'm sorry. Devigere. And she's the founder of Devigere Biosolutions. And we also have Yiting and Elaine from Big Idea Ventures. And they are respectively the program associate and social design associate from BiV as well. So welcome, everybody. To this very exciting sort of panel. So what we wanted to really focus on today, Pandemic Punditry, obviously we interview a lot of people from the smart protein space. We are strong advocates of, this new sort of field, all about essentially providing for the next 2 billion people that will come on this planet, and how are we going to feed them with the existing food systems. And so we've obviously had a lot of guests that talk about all the alternative ways that we can create protein foods, and we've had a lot of people from cell-based, from plant-based, from fermentation. So we had all the newsmakers, and what we wanted to do today was take a little bit of a different strategy here, because all of these companies and these exciting new industries require people at the end of the day to manage, run, and create those companies. And so we thought we will put together a panel of folks that we have today who've also made some interesting career choices on a personal level. And we wanted them to sort of share their stories about how they discovered this sector, how they came to be such pivotal players in that sector, and what inspiration or hopes or suggestions that they could give to those of you who are listening, who may be thinking, what do I do next in my careers? Maybe you're coming straight out of school, maybe you're an entrepreneur or thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, and maybe you are mid-career, you're trying to figure out what next, what do I do next, right? How can I use some of the skills that I've gained over the last 5, 10, 20 years and put that to good use? And so we want to encourage that, and we want to hopefully our panel here will help guide us in that direction. So welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Karthika, you want to kick off by asking a few questions or getting people to share some of their stories?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Larry. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining our panel. I just want to start off with a bit of a heavy-hitting question, because it was interesting for me when I was doing research for this panel. I mean, a lot of the planet-saving careers are mostly around environmental science, around technology. No one really looks at food technology as a planet-saving career, right? So, I mean, this is an open question to the panel. I mean, obviously, you guys are doing a lot of work in the food tech space. So, if a young activist or somebody who's just graduating from school, who's watching this, why is it that they should join the food technology space?
And anybody, yeah.
Sure, I can kick this off. I'm a technologist. I'm a young guy, and I just turned 25 last October. Been thinking about the food systems for the past 9 years, since I was 16. I chose a degree in food technology and management because I had interest in sustainability and food security back then as well. And obviously, the innovation in food sector is really misunderstood. Even the term food technology is really misunderstood in a country like India, because food technology is more often thought of cloud kitchens, logistics, food delivery platforms, because they're software powered. but nobody really thinks about food engineering, food microbiology. People would, for the first question people would ask you, one of my juniors from NIFTM recently put up a post on LinkedIn which got really viral about clarifying differences between hospitality management students and food tech students, because the first thing people would ask you is, hey, do you are you from hospitality, if you tell them you're from food technology. But I think there's a huge impact to be had through this career route, as is evident from my work at the Good Food Institute India. So we are a non-profit, like you obviously know, Kartika and Lavi, and everybody on the panel knows. So we basically create the smart protein sector for India. We are building this entire sector from the bottoms up for the past 3 years. And as part of the role of innovation specialist, I interact with thousands of students. So over the past couple of years, I've trained more than 1,500 students in India through our key two interventions, which are the India Smart Protein Innovation Challenge, and at the same time, a lot of our GF Ideas India community, where a lot of researchers, young professional students are a part of. And I see food technology as a huge area to create impact on environment, obviously through the smart protein sector, because there are just connotations related to water use, land use, greenhouse gas emissions, which you can reduce, which are the byproducts of the factory farming kind of a model, which we can currently bypass if we innovate and go to a better food system. Especially in the Indian context, I think our food system, the food ecosystem, or the way we produce food, our value chains, we don't have a lot of baggage from the past. Over the past 50, 60 years, we haven't invested as much as the Western countries have in, say, abattoirs or cold chains for meat products or factory farming products. And we are rapidly doing that now. So this is a high time, this decade, 2021 to 2030, when young people who are deciding to take a career in the sector, as well as not just food technologists, a lot of random people with different career paths who have interest in this area of food science. And again, food is a central theme across everybody's life, which is what my thinking was back then as well while choosing a career in this area. And yeah, I think there are enough opportunities with very, very interesting and impactful sectors like the smart protein sector now. So yeah, that's my perspective on it.
Yeah, if I could just chime in, thank you both, Lavendra and Karthika, for inviting us. And I think it's a really dynamic panel because everyone has a very unique story of how they got here. So in my situation, I started off my career in medical sciences. And I thought, let's say the best way to contribute to health and well-being was to focus on food technology. And, I totally agree with what Shardul said. Not many people understand what food technology is. I remember everyone asking me, oh, are you going to become a dietitian or a nutritionist? And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to actually make food products that are healthier for you and that actually have functional food benefits that can prevent, chronic diseases like diabetes, cancer, obesity, etc. So I think, at the end of the day, yes, we're all mission aligned. I think none of us maybe anticipated that there would be so much interest in this space. Personally myself, I just thought I'm going to work for a food company and that's it. I never thought there would be impossibles, beyonds, or even an alternative protein segment that I would be, let's say, sucked up into. So it's really exciting. And yeah, happy to hear everyone's stories as well.
Anyone else?
I can go next. I guess my point of why we want to join the food technology industry, I guess the key thing is everyone is, I mean, personally, I'm very curious of what I'm eating. Ever since I've been trying to understand what sort of food is on the market, even the food I go to the supermarket, I try to buy, I always wonder what the food is made of. So that's why this curiosity has brought me up to today. Yeah, definitely. I think food industry is really, really huge. The technology is really keep changing over the years, and definitely gives us a lot of opportunities to understand how much times has changed and the food has changed in terms of nutritional point of view. So I think the best example to use is alternative protein. You didn't expect that even you can make a meat product from a plant sources, and technology has really shown otherwise that we can do that. So I think that's a lot of different interest. I guess that's the interesting part of joining the food technology industry. I guess I also heard a lot of people asking me, why do you want to join food tech? Are you a chef? Do you cook a lot? Because you love cooking, that's why you join this food industry. But I would say that I'm not. I mean, I love to cook, but I'm not a chef. So, but the food tech really shows us a lot of different areas, understanding the science behind it. Why do we manage to make ice cream? Is what sort of emulsion is that? What sort of ingredients is required? Why do we need to add such ingredients in the product to enhance the flavor, the texture, the appearance? All this information, I would say that going through a whole food degree typically gives you a lot of insights about it. So yeah, I would say the food industry is definitely growing, and everybody needs food, and then we do have to find alternative solutions to feed the increasing population. So that's why I thought that it's going to be very, food technology is going to be a very attractive industry.
So just let me just maybe expand the scope of the word food technology a little bit. So it's been a bit of a education for me, and I'm sure for Karthika as well, as we've sort of embarked on this journey of talking to people since April of last year. So there's on the plant-based side, there's all these taking plants, whether they are grains or everything from jackfruit to millets to, I guess, to oats and everything else, pulses, grains, and then converting them into either a milk or a cheese or a egg, or for that matter, a meat, right? And that's various machinery involved, extraction, all of that. And then looking at things like fermentation, where you're looking at using fermentation techniques to extract proteins and other nutrients from food. Or mycelium, for example, the roots of mushrooms, right, which we had a very interesting chat with Peter Luba on that from Microtechnologies. Then we have things like cell-based, which is in its own sense really sort of Star Trek like technology, right? So you take cells from a living animal or thing, and then you multiply that in a bioreactor, and that is that's high science, right? I mean, there's a lot of sort of science there that's very similar to what you would do in a pharmaceutical company, maybe, or a drug company, or even a beer company for that matter, right? There's fermentation going on, right? So it seems that the field is quite broad. And am I right in making an assumption that the field needs people from sort of almost every other field that you're there? So if it's not like you have to go to NIFTM, which is a very stellar institute in India, to learn food technology, or you have to be a food technologist per se to contribute. But if you're a chemist or a process engineer, a biologist, so I'm just wondering, from your expertise and from the companies that you all work with, what areas can these people come from to help this new revolution in food? I mean, does it need to be sort of a specialization, or can someone from any industry sort of join? And that's the open question I have for maybe some of you who work directly with these companies may be able to respond. Please, anybody.
Yeah, shall I start?
Please, Sila.
Basically, I'm not a food technologist. I'm a biotechnologist by profession. Okay. So what I would say in this area is, whoever knows the science field in a very basic understanding, like be it biotechnologist or microbiologist, even fermentation specialist or animal cell culture specialist who can handle the cell culture lines, we have a big scope for them who can actually contribute from the basic level. Like how I come from the biotechnology background, I understand how to extract these proteins, be it from pulses or grains or from microorganisms. Like this, in a different field, how to grow these microorganisms, or even how to make a media, or how to formulate a media in a fermentation process to grow these foods. In case of animal cell culture, how to even grow these cell lines, it requires the biotechnology profession or biotechnology degrees or cell lines studies. And even I'm getting a lot of questions regarding texturizer experts, like how we can actually make these raw material of protein concentrates into the texturized meat product. So in there, we have a lot of scope who can understand this physics and chemistry of the plant proteins, and how it could be contributed, or how it can actually transform those proteins into the textured meat, so that we can mimic a different animal products. So there is also a scope in that area as well. So in the science, wherever we come from, if we have a deeper understanding and basic knowledge of that complete subject, and if you have passionate towards contributing food technology, anyone can join in this alternate protein segment.
Yeah, very important. Anybody else?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah. Please go on, Elaine.
Oh, thanks. So I just thought I'll share my 2 cents. Since I came from a background that is completely unrelated to like food tech, I actually majored in history during my undergraduate studies. So, but like the reason, like my origin story about over to like Devigere Ventures was also how a couple of years ago I did an internship at the Singapore's like Ministry of Sustainability and Environment, And during like a sustainability workshop there, which we organized, I tried my first like Impossible Foods burger. And that like burger really got me thinking as to like the causes that I wanted to support after graduation. And also during my time at Berkeley, I realized that the school was also very big on sustainability and environment, with lots of like advocacy groups. And so I think that sort of like energy sort of infected me. And that's sort of how I came about like to Big Idea Ventures. I thought like it was a good way to sort of like marry the theoretical with the practical, where we're not just like a VC, but we really run like an accelerator program where you can work with like amazing and enterprising founders like on a day-to-day basis and just learn from them. So I think a lot of it is that a lot more technical information or things that you might not have known can be learned on the job. So, it was only after joining Big Idea Ventures that I really learned about things like bioreactors, organ on a chip, a lot of interesting things. I picked up a lot of it from like Dr. Matthew and Dr. Dalal on the call. And then, of course, I think a major requisite is just being like a major foodie and wanting to do something about the future of health, the planet, and the environment. So I think that's really all it takes, to sort of like just like to get you going, to have that passion. Yeah.
Well said, Elaine. So I mean, it's crucial. You brought up a crucial point there. So I think if you have a passion for food, if you have a passion for the environment, or issues of sustainability, there are so many things, as you say, very likely so. And I think this is backed up by the number of guests we've had on the show who are founders of these companies. Very few of them are actually food technologists. So they've actually come from some other industry altogether. And I think those are the key. If you're mission aligned and you have a passion for food and you have a concern for the environment, for the animals, whatever have you, that motivates you, then the rest of the sort of the gaps can be filled in by the brilliance of people like Dr. Matthew and Dr. Dalal, who can fill you in. And of course, you can hire great, chief science officers and everybody else who have the background that somebody like Shardul or Smitha has, right? So you could backfill that from other sources. So that's a really great point, Elaine. Sorry, Shardul, you were going to talk before that.
Absolutely. Just building on that, and maybe Matthew can talk about the technology aspects a little better. But just I was saying, the topic of today's discussion is obviously planet-saving careers, right? And why the smart protein sector is kind of the epitome of this planet-saving career field is because, like I said, if you're from commerce, if you're from law, it does not matter if you're from finance, if you're a VC, if you're a PE guy, if you're an engineer, it does not matter which field you come from. Like I said, the Smart Protein Challenge we ran, there was such a diverse set of participants in our challenge who learned the basics of it because they were passionate, like you said, Lavi, about the sector. And we are building a sector here, right? It's the start of a new sector altogether. So just like the IT sector grew in the past 20, 30 years in India, now you need lawyers who understand cybersecurity law, right? You need VCs who understand specifics of making deal in the IT sector. Similarly, we are going to develop this entire sector where everybody's going to find an opportunity to contribute, right? From science and technology to arts to non-scientific, backgrounds as well. Yesterday, I was conducting a session at Delhi University, and sometimes you might not think of Delhi University colleges as, very prominent in science and technology, but a bunch of students who are, PhD students in law and philosophy, there are philosophical questions about the growth of this field. You can do consumer research, you can do market research, you can do econometrics, you can do life cycle analysis of, these products that are being developed. So it's across the value chain. Think of a career path that you want to apply this field to, and I think you'll find an option no matter where you are. And yeah, I definitely recommend people to kind of go through our student guides as well, which kind of lays this out in very, very much details. Like if you're coming from a certain background, how can you contribute to the, alternative protein or the smart protein sector? So I think that would be very helpful for the audience.
Thank you, Shardul. You hit the nail on the head. Maybe we can have Karthika, maybe have a little bit more personal sort of story here. Dr. Alghawas, I mean, you said you were thinking of the medical field, right? So how did you make that transition? What trigger went off in you to say, I'm going to become a smart protein sector, and then of course become a work for a VC organization?
Yeah, I think this is a really fun story. I always love to share it. So of course, for me, let's say I've changed my career several times, right? So I started off in medical sciences. I made that step to kind of shift towards food science and food technology. So I thought it was a good time to go back to school. And I did my PhD in Hong Kong. It was a great experience. And when I graduated, I thought, I'm just going to look for a food company, and that's it. I'm going to start my career in food product development. And when I graduated, I was looking for a job. I was in Hong Kong, And Hong Kong being the finance city it is, I did get sucked up into that scene. So at the time, one of my best friends, Lynn Rab Simon, so she was the head of the head of technology at Bloomberg, and she had just resigned to open her own, let's say, M&A boutique. And she was looking for a scientific advisor, so she came up to me and asked me to do it for her. So I told her I don't know how to be a scientific advisor. I've never worked, for an investment firm before, And she said it's fine. I'll teach you and just try it out. And she liked that I had a background in life sciences. And even at that time, nobody was looking at food technology, and this was in 2017. So, when I did get into that space, I thought it was really exciting because it really showed that there was a clear path to move away from research and find ways to, let's say, work on commercialization. And seeing all the different, let's say, investment rounds and how this aligned with, let's say, adequately commercializing ideas into sustainable and viable businesses, I thought this is a great, let's say, avenue for me to continue and develop in. And, let's say the way that I got introduced to food technology investments, it was just through a random dinner with friends that I met the CEO of my former company, Brink, and they invited me to join and set up the first food technology accelerator program. So everything just happened by chance. I guess I was just right there at the right time. And I really encourage, a lot of people who are, let's say, looking for careers in sustainability, just be open-minded. There are so many opportunities, and usually in the most unlikely places.
So don't say no to dinner invitations.
Exactly.
Never know where that may lead.
Exactly.
Anybody else want to share their story? Smitha, you've got a bit of an interesting story here, right? You've turned an entrepreneur from a biotechnologist. You have your own company. Maybe give us a little background about what Biosolutions does.
Yes, I actually finished my Bachelor of Engineering in Biotechnology in 2009, and I did my post-graduation diploma in molecular biology from Institute of Bioinformatics and Applied Biotechnology, Bangalore. And through that, I got a campus placement to Novozymes R&D. And where I got an opportunity to work in an application lab where we apply the enzymes to the food products. So there I actually got to learn a lot about the food products and how we actually change their nutrition or be its functionalities by using enzymes. There I worked for 7 years, and we got tremendous learning in the field of biotechnology and also in application. So, as I always wanted to start something on my own, I don't know where to start. And then I left my job, and then we also had a family business of millets production, and then it's marketing. So I took up that, and I initially helped in that, but later I always wanted to come back to my field. In the meantime, I got to know about the Good Food Institute, and I got in touch with Varun. And then I actually, that point of time, I learned about the sustainability, like how our eating pattern affects the environment. Till that time, I was always thinking it's the machines or cars or that's not what causes this pollution. But how our industrial agriculture or animal agriculture is affecting is what I got to learn. Then when we were introducing to the alternative plant proteins, I was very much interested. Immediately I thought, why only soy or gluten? At that time it was only pea protein where we were introducing in 2017. Then I thought there are many Indian pulses in India. Why can't we have plant protein concentrates from that? So that was the initial idea. It was just an idea, and then I went on to work with that idea and started with many trials at home, and I ended up with lots of from hundreds and thousands of failures. And finally we got to know, I was very determined not to use any chemicals or solvents to extract those proteins. So today we are in a position where we have finalized the plant protein concentrates, which are highly functional and they are highly nutritious, and we are not using any chemicals. It's completely water-based extraction. So that's where we are today, and we are registered our company in the last year, and we definitely hope to be the major player in the functional protein industry in coming years.
Wow! So you said you had a family interest in millets. So is some of the protein isolates from millets also?
No, right now I'm mainly working with pulses. Maybe in future we will have with the millets as well.
Okay, great. Sorry. Karthika, sorry, I've been monopolizing.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm just cognizant that Yi hasn't said anything. So if you can share your sort of origin story with us and how you became to be a part of Big Idea Ventures.
Yeah, sure, of course. I mean, like, going on the theme, like taking a leap of faith, for me, myself, my background is really totally different from food science in the department. So I come from, let's say, environmental bio background, learning about the climate change, I'm learning about, let's say, like human impacts on our environment and all about, like saving the animals, doing wildlife conservation. So then how, really I come into, like, let's say, into this food space is really by chance, really. So, during one of my, let's say, module in university, like one of our mentors that actually come into the class, and she told us, let us about, like this new space called alternative protein. So it was really very new to me and got me interested, in this space. Yeah, and then so like thinking back about, let's say, sustainability, it really comes in a lot of facets. So beyond, like, let's say, focusing on environmental impacts, it's also about, shifting consumers' decision and choices. So a lot of, let's say, these issues regarding environmental comes from, let's say, agriculture, doing, let's say, large areas of monocultures, using a lot of lands, let's say, to rear cows, all this have a lot of impact. So then it really boils down to, like how we, can provide, like, let's say, like alternative option, for consumers, to eat, more sustainably in their own way. Yeah, so that's really how, I come into this alternative space to really like to assure, like, those people out there, backgrounds, there is, like, let's say, a space for you regardless of your background, really. And speaking from, let's say, experience as associate here at Media Ventures, we work with startups. And starting out a company, requires a lot of different expertise. It's not just about the scientific, let's say, knowledge that you have. In a company, what makes a company grow is also, different parts of different aspects that make a company grow. So in terms of, let's say, marketing, bring a brand name out there, or it's also, let's say, manufacturing, looking out for, let's say, co-manufacturers in areas to manufacture, and also, like, let's say, fundraising is another important aspect, like reaching out to investors, that soft skill that you need, to raise funds. So, yeah.
So I'm hearing a common theme here, which is like, irrespective of your background, you can contribute at various capacities. You can start a company like Smitha has. You could, join a advisory firm, or even join a VC venture capital firm or investment firm. So let me just ask from a BIV perspective question now. Just shift a little bit, and then we'll ask the GFI related question. I mean, you have this accelerator program that you run, very popular, marquee program. Everybody knows the value of becoming a part of a BIV cohort, and we've had a lot of your cohort companies on our program. Very interesting work that they're doing across the globe, both in your New York cohort and your Singapore cohort. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in the founders that are coming on board? One of the questions that I thought was really funny that Bill Gates the other day talked about synthetic beef, right? And everybody went, "Oh, why did he call it synthetic beef?" Right? So we've got Bill Gates' attention. He's talking about the need for this. That we've got the success of Beyond. I think Oatly is about to IPO. People are talking about a $10 billion valuation. So this is like this is a booming sector. You're making lots of interesting investments in that. BIV is. What are some of the trends that you're seeing? Are you seeing more and more people from different backgrounds? Are you seeing more women coming into this to this business? I'm always curious because the tech industry was heavily dominated by men. It seems like the food industry is something that women should play a bigger role in. Are you seeing some of that in kind of the people that are approaching you for funding? What have you seen in the last 5 years that you could call a notable trend, maybe? And anyone from BIV is free to answer. Should I have to call on somebody?
Dr. Matthew, I'm going to call on someone.
I was like waiting for the ladies to. Ladies first. I guess the thing that we have said is definitely the key thing. We've seen that there's a lot of growth in the women as the founder. So to be honest, if you look at Smitha, she's also a woman, a strong woman which runs a business, and this is something that we have also discovered as a rise of women being setting up their business and looking at what sort of areas that they look into. So I guess in terms of looking at this alternative protein sectors, we don't have any way that the male are dominating this system, but definitely a handful of women, and I think rising more companies are being founded by a lot of capable and strong women. I guess in terms of looking at the whole transition, I would say that a lot of the founders that I talked to before, or even in our portfolio companies, they are really very passionate in the way of bringing a very sustainable approach to bring food to the consumers. That's why they managed to set up the company to look at what sort of alternative sources they can create their product. So I'd say that if you were to talk to them, I believe when you talk to Smitha, you can understand how much passion she had when she talked about ingredient, looking at a clean approach, not using chemicals to extract the protein structures, protein from different plant ingredients. So I guess passionate founders are everywhere. And when you talk to them, you can really see how much things they are devoted in their time to make sure that they produce not just tasty products, but also products that can benefit the consumer and the environment. So I believe not just being passionate, a lot of founders, they believe that they are vegan is something that they have a strong opinion on it. They don't want to use animal sources to create their product. So that's why they can use different plant sources or even cell culture based to create their product. So I would say that definitely there's a lot of different people coming in this space, and I would say that they don't have to be to have a strong technical background. They do have the passion and they know what they want, and they really can come in and they can really set up a business and run what sort of areas they like to address. So another way I would say that you don't need to be very technically strong in order to set up a business. To be honest, even though I'm strong in my technical area, I do realize that when I joined BiV Ventures with the popular companies, I realized that there's a lot of things that I need to learn from them, fundraising, looking what sort of a business model, what sort of market strategy that I need to adopt. All these different areas is something that I have to learn from them. I do even have to ask them what do you mean by running a business, what's the strategy like. So definitely I would say that it's working BiV Ventures and the portfolio company is like a learning school for me as well. I exchange my knowledge in terms of the technology, and then I learn from them in terms of the business model, how do they get more investment, and how do they get their fundraising done. So I would say that definitely there's a lot of different areas that everyone comes in, and eventually with the right network and the right ecosystem, we're able to build a very strong alternative protein sectors for the consumers.
Great. So
can I just add?
Yeah, please. I was going to ask you.
Sorry. So as a scientist, I love statistics. So there's a lovely statistic that I always like to mention during the accelerator program is that the World International Patent Office, they announced that from 2005 2015 that women inventors sort of patent applications tripled. So this is like a really big improvement in terms of like women scientists or inventors coming forward. And let's say the top sectors that women are submitting patents are in biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, organic chemistry, and food technology. So it's really showing that let's say the talent is there. And I think like many other industries, it's really about a confidence issue. A lot of women don't think that they're ready to, let's say, start a company or to be the founders of companies. And I'm really happy to say that only in the last few years, I've really seen a tremendous change of like women entrepreneurs coming forward, and also, let's say, investment firms being more conscious that they need to attract more female entrepreneurs to their programs. And of course, really understand the differences between male and, let's say, female entrepreneurs in terms of their mannerisms, their attitudes, and showing that women, even though sometimes we're more reserved, it doesn't mean that we're less talented. We just need to have more support. And I'm really glad that let's say Big Idea Ventures and a lot of investment firms in the food technology space are really taking this on board.
Oh, that's great to know, and that's very good news. Karthika, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I have a question. So if we bring this down from like a 40,000 feet to like 100,000, to 1,000 feet, what can a new graduate do? Are there specific things that they have to learn in order to join this new space? I mean, where can they find this information, and why aren't more colleges kind of promoting this as a future career?
Anybody?
I can take it on. Yeah, it's excellent question, and I think it's. I've been doing a lot of this work in India as well, kind of working with a lot of management universities, technology universities, top IITs, top IIMs, applied science universities. At the same time, having gone through this experience, so though we talked a lot about me being a food technologist, I've studied food management, I've studied liberal arts, I've looked at food through sociology, anthropology, political science, economics. I've even studied arts through the lens of food. So I've really developed some good background in this area to kind of understand everybody's perspective. And though we kind of ended up discussing that, diverse people can come in this sector very easily, I think the context in India is very, very important. That a founder of a company in this area, or even if you're a technology student wanting to innovate in this area, you definitely need to understand science very, very well. And you need to know that this is a very tech forward sector, because the context in India is such that our food innovation ecosystem is very immature in many ways compared to the West. So if you're coming from Singapore or Hong Kong or USA, you can find all of these talents very easily, like Dr. Matthew or somebody who's an associate, and hire them from good universities. But in India, we've at GFI we've engaged with hundreds of entrepreneurs over the past 2 years, and the hundreds of corporate stakeholders, FMCG companies, and the common theme which arises is 90% of them are usually looking for sci-tech talent, because there are not enough people who can actually work on the technology side. Other areas you can still work with, you can find overlapping talent, you can find mission line people and hire them. But for science and technology, that was the biggest bottleneck. So I think, what skills can someone develop, even as an entrepreneur, as an investor in India? If people are looking at globally also at this, I think understanding the 101s or 201s, the basics of science and technology, of how these products are made. Otherwise, what happens is you waste a lot of time wanting to start a company or create a product on completely wrong fundamentals. Like, you are trying to create a mock meat, which is not going to be accepted in the market. You have to really understand what it takes to create that soy nugget-like product, which is like a generation 1, and really take it to plant-based meat level, which is like generation 3. That's why this theory of change has succeeded in the world, right? You have to match these products on price, taste, and convenience, and that involves like re-engineering a lot of our skills. Learning a lot about unit economics, learning a lot about scaling up manufacturing. Learning a lot about if you're an entrepreneur. Again, this answer would really differ if you are an entrepreneur wanting to get in this area, if you're a student wanting to get in this area. But I think science and technology is one key theme which you definitely need to educate yourself in. Again, alternative proteins is a broad term. So in the smart protein sector, like we call it in India, there are 3 verticals, right? Plant-based, fermentation, and cultivated meat, eggs, and dairy. So throughout these 3 verticals, I think there are different technology requirements of the barriers to entry for different entrepreneurs. And again, like Lavi said, that many founders, maybe globally, are now non-sci-tech. But if you see the truly successful companies, really high tech forward nature of their founders, they really understand for 10 years what it's going to take to scale up these processes. Otherwise, you're kind of destined to fail in many ways if you don't account for all of these. And I think in terms of learning, there are great, massive online open courses on our websites. The India Smart Protein Innovation Challenge is like a 4-month journey where you understand each aspects of this sector. So we collaborated with, IIM Ahmedabad, CI, ECO, a bunch of other incubator, obviously Big Idea Ventures, Brink, a bunch of other partners to kind of educate all of these participants about different aspects of the sector, whether it's understanding the consumer research part, because at the end of the day, you're selling to a consumer, and understanding that specific to the country you're in, maybe you're in India, maybe you're in Sri Lanka, there's going to be a different cohort of customers and how they consume these products. So understanding your customer is very important. Understanding the technology and process is really important. And most importantly, understanding the context of where you're going to source from, the entire value chain, because it's a food manufacturing business at the end of the day, right? So you have to account for resource. You have to really understand where the resources would be provided, where the co-manufacturers are located, flavors, ingredients. So I guess as an entrepreneur, you definitely have to be a generalist. And even as a scientist, you have to be a techno manager in many ways, because you have to not just do experiments, but you have to account for all of this ecosystem around creating a company, and also kind of imbibe a lot of techno managerial soft skills as well. So yeah, that's kind of a general advice for students or researchers or entrepreneurs wanting to start a company in the sector.
So a question to BIV. So in the part of the accelerator program, are these some of the areas that you would backfill, the areas that Shardul sort of outlined, in terms of, so let's say that, you have somebody who's not a food tech, right? Who doesn't have a science background, but is very close to the customer, has a great passion for food, has a really good idea on what to do, maybe wants to do either plant-based or cell-based or fermentation. So a program such as your accelerator program would help them backfill these areas that Shardul very clearly outlined. Is that the sort of the genesis or the thinking behind the accelerator program that you'll run? Anybody?
Yeah, maybe I'll take this, but I also want to pass it over to Eating as well. So yeah, definitely, during the program, we make sure that we kind of understand what are the key pain points for each individual portfolio company. And let's say through our A to Z suite of services, we can then, let's say, either connect them to internal experts or let's say our external wider network, as well as partnerships. So I'll pass it over to Eating to tell you more about the different departments and some examples of how we work with them.
Yeah, so I mean, in starting out a company, of course, as we have to focus on the different aspects of the business. So we do, let's say, engage with mentors, from the ecosystem, be it to engage with different expertise. Yeah, so it can be, from, let's say, coming out with a product itself, doing consumer feedbacks, and just a consumer discovery, let's say, study on which consumers you should target to analyze, let's say, your products. So let's say manufacturing your product, looking for co-manufacturers to produce your product, and then to, let's say, to working with distributors, to, let's say, distribute your products to different retails, hotels. Yeah, and also let's say marketing, and then let's say more focus on doing in terms of doing e-commerce online, to sell products online. And so these are the different areas that we actually work with our startup very closely. So depending on their needs, we do modify our program to their needs. At the start of the program, we do sit down with our startups to understand what are their different needs, what are the issues that they face, so that we could better tailor our program to their needs. Yeah, so that's in terms of the kind of support that we give for our startups. Yeah, so I mean, bringing back to, let's say, the point on, let's say, why graduates maybe might not be very involved in this space. I would say I think it's probably because it's a very new space. So I think there still has to be a lot, let's say, awareness on the kind of job opportunities that are out there. So, in terms of EIB, that's why apart from supporting startups and entrepreneurs, we also support young entrepreneurs, students who are in a higher institute of learning, universities, who have great ideas that they have. Yeah, so last year we had this big food debate challenge. We thought this challenge is open to all students, where they can form a team and submit their ideas. It could be in parts of, let's say, alternative protein, or let's say ideas on how we could improve functional nutrients and solutions, to food resistance alternative packaging. So then it was really a very eye-opening, I would say, to see so many students they taking part and actually applying for our challenge, and you can see the quality of their ideas and solutions are good. Yeah, but even though they are just students, they do have great ideas. So I think what we do is we try to bridge the gap between them and then moving forward to bring their ideas to life, and then bring on the support of our partners to actually support their ideas. Yeah, so yes.
Great, good answer.
I have a specific question for Elaine because she's in marketing. So Elaine, obviously there is a big debate about marketers needing to be more ethical and having a lot of integrity because of all of the issues that are now happening out there in the world. So what kind of advice do you have for somebody who's looking to get started in marketing and looking to start, being an ethical marketer with somebody who wants to, save the planet?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Thanks, Kartika. So what I would say is, originally when I first started out, there were a lot of things, for example, that I wasn't as informed about when it comes to the environment and sustainability. But slowly you pick up terms as you learn on the job. And what I would say is sometimes like having a clear understanding of like different sorts of like nomenclature and like like the terms that people in the food tech space use. So sometimes for example there are different ways to talk about, like, for example, cell-based meat. So you can say like cellular agriculture, you can say cultivated meat, you can say like for example these other various forms of terms, and all of them would mean like different things and also mean different things to specific groups of people. So sometimes you just have to be, I think we just have to be like mindful of the fact that even though some of us like maybe say like vegans or like just more attuned to like a plant-based diet, there are people who are genuinely, it's not that they don't want to get into a plant-based diet, but they sort of just need to be like more like informed about like the health benefits, about what this could do for sustainability, the environment. So sort of like being mindful of the different like target audiences that you might have, I think is very, very important as you sort of like craft like like your like sort of like online presence. Yeah, so that would be my 2 cents. Yeah.
Thanks, Elaine. So the follow-up question to anyone in the panel, and Elaine brought up a good point about informing people who want to try and be vegan or go plant-based or whatever. So how do you compassionately and empathetically tell people that this is the best way to save the planet?
Yeah, absolutely. My answer would be that this is the biggest misconception that a lot of people have. Not products for vegans. So this is not vegan products for vegans, right? These are plant-based meat, eggs, and dairy products, which are replicating conventional slaughtered animal meat, eggs, and dairy products from either plants, from either fermentation or cultivation. So look at the cohorts of consumption, right? Impossible, Beyond, any other company. Almost all the companies in India which are selling products, we know their data, like 80 to 90% of customers are non-vegetarians or flexitarians. And again, this is a little milky in India, that it's a little cloudy concept in India, that who exactly would be a flexitarian. And like to your earlier question about marketing, I think understanding those cohort of consumers, early adopters, late adopters, what the demographics would look like. In India, we have guilty non-vegetarians. We have people who don't consume non-vegetarian food because of, festivals, because of religious issues. There are social and complex political issues related to these things as well. So understanding all of those things as a marketer would really add a lot of value. And again, like, you don't have to convince anybody. Like, that's why this theory of change has really worked. You work on the production side. You work on making products which taste exactly the same or better, which cost exactly the same or lesser. And they are accessible just like, your conventional animal, dairy, or meat products are in the market. And then you have to just give them a simple switch. And people consume meat, eggs, or dairy, especially meat, not because of the way it's produced, but despite of the way it's produced, right, currently. And they definitely want to shift to a better option, but they won't unless you really replicate on all of those parameters. So I think the aspect of educating a lot of these people for 40, 50 years hasn't really worked, because none of this is new information. And Karthika, right? I mean, people, environmentalists, public policy expert at Harvard, Oxford, best universities in the world have been saying this. UN scientists have been saying this for years now, that we need to change our food systems. But ultimately, it started changing, I think, only when we shifted to this kind of a change theory.
Good point. Good point.
Okay, thanks, Shardul. Anyone else? Dr. Matthew, you've been really quiet.
No, I mean, definitely, Shardul has talked about a lot of different areas of, and I would say that, I think in this way that we do need to work on and see what sort of areas that we can come in, because I would say that even like, for instance, BiV Ventures, we have this question that do we also provide all these different areas? I say yeah, we do, because people come in without technical knowledge, we exchange the knowledge, we understand a bit what they are doing, and then we work together as a team and eventually help them to overcome their challenges. So because to set up a business or even to run into this alternative protein sector, then definitely there's a lot of challenge that's involved to put your product, not just the technical portion, but also looking into the non-technical areas. Definitely, I would say that people coming from even well-known universities, they also need to understand how the society works. They have to go through the different the challenges that face in societies, and eventually to get even stronger, even better as well. And all these things you can't learn in the universities. You'll never know what sort of what are the challenges on the market unless you have been physically down, exposed yourself, running your own business, getting to meet people. Then you do understand all these social skills that are required. Because myself, if you look at it, last time when I do my PhD, I spent most of my time in the lab. Even though I just work my experiment, analyze the results, then write my thesis, that's all. But when you come up to the running your own business or even to work in a company, you do have to realize that in fact there's also skills that you need to brush on, which I had to learn a lot, how to brush up on my social skills, to meet people, to get things done, and how to get everything in place. So I would say that yes, universities is important, get all the different technical knowledge or even the fundamental basis. But when we go out to meet people, we do really have to get the social skills ready and see how we can work together as a whole and eventually to reach our objectives.
Good point.
If I could just add, yeah, I totally agree. Like it's really important to have like an active social life because you never can anticipate what type of people you'll meet. So like the lady that I mentioned earlier who really introduced me to the investment space, I met her through, let's say salsa dancing, just by going out and, meeting her within these different social circles and building up a relationship by continuing this hobby of mine, right? So make sure that you have this diverse, let's say, lifestyle, that you're able to meet, let's say, different people from different sectors that can really help you to kind of get you outside of that, let's say, academic sphere, like outside of what you're learning at university. And then just open up doors to different, chances, sectors, and really help you to kind of draw the connections for your future career.
Good point. Yeah, you don't be a dull person, right? Indulge in your other passions as well. Sorry, Karthik, go ahead.
Correct. No. I was just wanting to ask Smitha. So Smitha, I mean, obviously you spoke a little bit about your origin story and all of that stuff, and hearing everything that the panel has to say today. Do you have any specific advice you want to give to like a young entrepreneur looking to get started?
Yeah, because I don't know how much I'll be suitable for that because I myself is starting a journey. Like I'm there only from past 1 year. Definitely first thing is the passion. If we are really passionate about bringing the change or bringing the nutritious food products into our plates and then creating sustainable food products. So whatever the field we may be, definitely this is we could actually start with this plant protein system. And for the entrepreneurs, as I come from the scientific background, as Shardul said, I never have faced too much of technical problems. But where I wanted to learn was with respect to the business planning or like how the startups work, or even let's say beginning like how to even register a company. So that was completely unknown sector. So whenever we see some of the setbacks, all the mindset is really important. So to take all the failures or the lags in a positive way and then to move forward. So that is the most important thing in either starting a business or starting an entrepreneurship journey, to be positive and then to move on and then to seek help when it is required. So these are the main points I would say.
Good. So we advertise this session as a recession-proof, pandemic-proof job career, right? So I wanna give people a little bit of a flavor for that, and that we were not advertising falsely to get everybody to join our conversation today. But so clearly, I mean, from Bill Gates, call to adopt alternative proteins or smart proteins. I hate word synthetic beef. That's terrible. But let's say that we use alternative protein sources, to the likes of what we're going to see when Oatly goes public, to the lot of investment dollars that have gone in. So there's clearly, I think, if people were to reflect back on the lockdown, while everything else was sort of crumbling in terms of tourism and travel and all the other industries were sort of in dire straits, the only thing that sort of kept going was the food industry, right? So because all of us, just like we have to breathe, we all got to eat at some point, right? And so the food industry was the least impacted. And so what we're doing here is a call to say, yes, the food system that we had currently for the current population is just not going to sustain itself. And that's clear proof from all the scientists. It's been on the cards for a long time, as Shardul mentioned. So we got to get a new system in place that's more sustainable, more scalable, uses less water, land, all of that stuff. So this is the future in terms of how humans are going to be eating in the next 20, 30 years, right, and beyond. So in that sense, it is recession-proof. It is sort of the new age of food. And there's a lot of science involved in it, everything from synthetic biology to the stuff that we mentioned. and yet to be discovered sources of food. I think there's a lot of exciting things happening here at all levels, right? Everything from the supply of ingredients, which Smitha is a part of, to creating these foods, to marketing these foods, to the legal frameworks, to the philosophical frameworks of whether something's halal or kosher, or all of these things, right? These are also interesting conundrums. Whether can cell-based food become vegan because if it didn't actually require it was from a cell line that's already published. I mean, there's so much interesting controversies around all of these subjects, right? It's just a phenomenally fascinating area, that one which Karthik and I obviously indulge in on a regular basis, having interesting guests as yourself on the show. So yes, in some sense, I think this is recession proof. What do you think? I mean, given that you're in the field and obviously a part of this workforce, do your individual companies, do the companies you've invested in, do your colleagues in the space say, hey, we need more people? Is this is as hyped? Is there lots of job opportunities? Anyone?
I can answer this a little bit, and then maybe we can go on to individual panelists as well for their experiences. So as a sector builder, what I've seen in this industry is we launch the state of industry reports every year, right? And last year, by the time in June 2020, we launched our latest state of industry, like international reports covering all the investment went into the sector. $741 million were invested in the first 6 months of 2020, which was almost more than the entire investment in 2019. So basically, in pandemic, I've seen many more companies grow in this area. Just to give you an example, and this is slightly older than pandemic, when I started in 2018, there were like 40 companies in this area across 3 verticals, and now there are more than 500 companies across 3 verticals. And we maintain a database of all of those. They've been rapidly increasing, even the startups in India, right? When I started out at GFI India back in 2018, December, there were only 2 known companies, Good Dot, Good Milk. Now there are dozens of startups waiting to launch their products, employing, hundreds of people across different verticals, including hiring a lot of scientists from universities like NIFTM, CFTRI, ICT, through our talent databases. So it's definitely growing as a sector, and much better than other sectors. In fact, we used to conduct a lot of these webinars throughout the pandemic period, right? Like, the GF Ideas India webinar series. I think we saw a lot of people come on and express that they are finding this sector as kind of recession-proof in many ways, because obviously it's food, but also the fact that it's so innovative, and in innovative sectors, there's a lot of growth. So, sometimes that stagnation is kind of overshadowed by the fast rate of growth of a sector. So I definitely think that more resources are coming in, more money is coming in, more entrepreneurs are looking at starting many innovative companies. In fact, through the Challenge 10 companies, young students, doing plant-based or using indigenous crops to make plant-based dairy. Dalal knows a few of them as well, so she can talk about a portfolio companies increasing, all of that. But I think that's a little bit of perspective from my side on how things have been improving in the pandemic. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Validated by data. Go ahead, Dr.
No problem. I was just going to say, adding to Shardul's point, so definitely the investment landscape has definitely shown that it's recession-proof for the alternative protein segment. So, it's definitely in Asia Pacific. Let's say the rate of investments in the alternative protein ecosystem has grown like over 200%. And that's, based on the last 3 years, combined. So definitely there's a lot of interest. This is aligned with, let's say, a lot of investment, let's say funds, making sure that they can invest in more sustainable food solutions, as well as, of course, the rising consumer, let's say, awareness towards this category as a whole. And let's say the drive, their sort of drive, to kind of consume more healthier foods. But yeah, I would definitely say that it's a really, let's say, these are really interesting times. A lot of things have changed, and even for our portfolio companies, they have to modify some of their original strategies, especially when it comes to distribution. For instance, like catering sector, Horeca has, let's say, been really hit heavily with the pandemic. So being able to diversify and shift towards e-commerce is always going to be
Doctor, is everybody still there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to go find a job, is there like a job board for alternative or smart protein? Is anybody building one? So, that aggregates all these jobs, save the planet jobs or whatever in smart protein. I mean, is there such a place? I'm asking.
We are trying to build one. We have one, obviously, for the US, GFI US website. GFI.org has a huge career board. Thousands of people are coming onto it, finding opportunities. We do a lot of that for, 600 plus stakeholders, including 100, 200 plus potential entrepreneurs. A lot of investors are looking to hire in India. We maintain something called the GFI India Talent Database, where such initiatives like the Smart Protein Innovation Challenge, our community initiatives of educating, having workshops across universities, management or vice versa. All of these people are coming onto this common platform called the talent database. It's very difficult. Like if you contact HR agency or headhunting agencies in India, hiring for food technologists or biotechnologists or people who really understand this sector is extremely tough, especially not the science and technology, people who understand that consumer marketing, people who understand all aspects of distribution specific to this sector. So, just like we talk, we are creating a sector. So every different job function would require a specific understanding of this sector. So I think we are facilitating a lot of this. And we have recently launched a new website, a new logo. This one is a slightly older one, but I think we are going to have a jobs page and a career board on our website as well by the end of this year. So this information gap of discovering opportunity is gonna shrink.
So is this something that GFI is doing globally? I mean, can like all the protein companies, smart protein companies in the world advertise their jobs in a single place and source talent from anywhere in the world? If that's not happening, maybe there's a job opportunity or a startup idea right there. Maybe
Absolutely. So I already do some of this. So we have GF ideas, like good food ideas communities across a lot of different countries, more than 2,000 stakeholders. There are Slack groups where all of these people circulate sometimes CDs, people who are looking to get hired, send their information in these groups. And absolutely. There's a very cross-functional community, and we focus definitely on making India as a talent hub as well, right? Because talent from India is very, very important. So people can definitely manufacture in India, find talent from India. So we definitely are having all of these things. Sometimes work visas are a big problem for getting hired in other countries, but and again, this is a food manufacturing, like R&D, lab intensive work, right? You cannot do a lot of this just sitting outside from a different country. Like you cannot outsource some of these things very easily. So that's a big barrier from the SciTech front. But I think other professionals who are getting educated in India can definitely apply their talents to Southeast Asia, to larger Asia region, and other parts of the world as well. And we are already facilitating a lot of this, and it will keep growing in the next 1 year.
Okay, so if somebody is looking for a job, GFI has some ideas. BIV, is there something similar in Singapore, or should they go to GFI Singapore to get that? I'm just asking if people will be watching the show and say, "Hey, I want to get a job in this area." Like, instead of calling every single company or looking at every single company's website for job openings, is there a clearinghouse globally that people can go to? And if not, the answer is not. But I was just wondering.
Yeah, we do. We do have we also revamp our website, and we do have a portion of job posting. We get all our portfolio companies that are looking for additional help. It could be scientists, it could be looking at marketing, someone to come in their marketing team and stuff like this. So we do have a job posting on that. Maybe I'll let Elaine explain more about it, because she's the one that built up this platform on the website to publish on getting people to join our portfolio companies. We are also open to internship as well. If some students, they want to explore the possibility of joining the alternate protein space, to let us know as well. Internship is also available in the other ventures. So I'll let Elaine talk to you more about the job posting on our website.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Matthew. So job postings at portfolio companies are generally very exciting, and we have a dedicated section on our BiV website, just featuring all these open positions. And the great thing about joining these companies is that they're early stage of growth, which is the most exciting part, and they're getting into a really accelerated phase, and you can really witness, be there from the start. The other thing that BiV also does is we work very closely with institutes of higher learning. So, for example, we have very close relations with National University of Singapore Enterprise, as well as Singapore Management University, where we actively reach out and host panels, roundtables, and events together to sort of raise awareness of the job scene as well. we're also a listed organization with like advisory, which is like a youth-led like non-profit organization in Singapore that helps to helps future sort of youths make decisions about their careers in the future and sort of get acquainted with various spaces like food tech. So absolutely, please reach out. If anytime there'll be interesting initiatives that we can partner with. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a question for BIV. I mean, so obviously there was some exciting news that came out about how the Bell Group is backing the BIV fund now. Does that mean you guys are going on a bit of a growth spurt and hiring more people? Is there going to be more, talent that you're looking for?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we are going to open an accelerator in Paris, which we're super excited about. And definitely hiring some members to join and to fuel the scene in Europe along with us. So really excited about that. Stay tuned.
Oh, wow. That's great news. So thank you very much for spending an hour with us. And so for anybody who's interested in a career in this fascinating field, look, if this happened when I was looking for a job, I would be one of the first people to sign up. So I still I'm still learning so much about the space. I've got words like scaffolding in my and media in my vocabulary now. And that's thanks to all the fabulous guests we've had on the show, including yourselves. So thank you again for spending the time. And if you're looking for a job, GFI has a link that a website that you can go to, and so has BIV. So on behalf of Karthik and myself, thank you very much for taking time off from your busy schedules to be with us on Pandemic Punditry today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you so much.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye.